Hello friends. So I was looking at the months and the beginning of the year again, and I do have a big update. I'm very excited to share this with you now. So if we count from the equinox, the next new moon should have only started the year, and that means that the solar eclipse that we just had began the month of Av. And I don't know if you know about the month of Av, but I have more on that on the next slide. But then the question is, will the tribulation start at the month of Av? That would definitely fit the pattern. So if you have to go to sleep, please wait for yet another month, and then, feel free to do whatever you want, of course. Let's get to it. So why the month of Av is significant? It's the 5th month. It's the month of transformation. Av means the Father. It's the month of the Father. And do you think the Father is pleased with how things are going on right now on earth? I don't think so. So what happened during this month in the past? There's only one date, precisely 1st of Av, mentioned in the Bible as the death of the high priest Aaron. And, well, I made an earlier video of connecting the blood moon that we will soon have with the crucifixion, so death of our high priest, Jesus Christ. So I have more on that later. But that happened in the month of Av. Also the destruction of the first and the second temple. And now the question is, will God allow the destruction of the third temple, meaning, the bride of Christ, or will the rapture happen to save before that could happen? Also, the arrival of Ezra in Jerusalem happened in Av. Ezra was a scribe and a priest returning from Babylonian exile. As a rapture reference. And there's also a connect with Enoch. Enoch was also a scribe and a witness. And of course we know Enoch was raptured. So will the bride be also raptured as a witness? Will we be doing some scribing? We will see, my friends. So then we move on to Amos 8. I will turn your feasts into mourning. We do know that God is sovereign and He owns both the new and the full moons. He knew the corruption that would take place, but He owns it all. It all works for His purpose, and perhaps He is showing that to the whole world right now in this month. All scenarios might have a hidden purpose in them. So that's why we need to look at, also the kind of what we think is corrupted earthly observances. Because of course God knew what would happen. He might use them. So if the August 12th, that's the eclipse new moon, was indeed the 1st of Av, so the year started at the first new moon after equinox. Like we actually thought that the world would operate, but even they it was very close. It was 19th was the new moon, and then 20th was the equinox, so they started the year anyways and didn't wait for the April new moon. But if we assume this, then the 9th of Av, which is a very significant day of bad events, it's actually from the 7th to the 10th of Av, but that would be already this weekend, during this Sabbath on this weekend. It's the last Sabbath before the blood moon. So that makes this last Sabbath also significant. If we will have tribulation for 10 days after the 9th of Av, then that would bring us to the 31st of August. And I've highlighted it here because you will see the pattern. 16th, 17th of Av would be actually hitting also the 31st of August. That's the very, very last possible moment. And that's what we expect God to work with. He will come at the very, very last moment to allow as many as possible to be as ready as possible at the time of that. I mentioned Joshua here because he's also fits with what he said about 1617. Now, the world is already in Elul, which is a month of marriage, joy, virgin, bride, and they keep repeating that the king is in the field. And that means that God himself is in the field. He's not only in the temple or in the palace, as a high priest and the king, but he's actually in the field with us. He's closer, more accessible. And in a weird way, this might be true. This is coming back to be my first comment in here, that God is sovereign and he uses everything, because he of course knew how things would go. But perhaps this feast of Elul will be turned into mourning again, like the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, Passover, and the other things that have went on in the past 12 months with this pattern. But if we would be in Elul already, then the Feast of New Oil, so the 22nd of Elul, would be 4th of September according to the Essenes. And now, I'll have more on that, but then I want to connect another thread to the puzzle before laying down that bit more complicated piece. So, when you have Passover, you have everything. That's what the Holy Two Moons vision prophecy said. And she was talking about the Passover, the original Passover, when Jesus was actually nailed to the cross and redeemed all of us. God wants to show the end already in the beginning. It seemed to the world that or to the adversary, that the war was over at that point, but no, in some sense it was. God already won. But yeah, coming back to the presentation, if we would be in Elul already, and the Feast of New Oil would be 4th of September, but the wise virgins collected the oil already at the start in Matthew, so last year. So perhaps something amazing like the rapture could happen even before the Feast of New Oil. Now, I know it was blood mixed with oil, or oil mixed with the blood from the altar that was sprinkled on Aaron and the priests. So it might be that we will pass this 4th of September, going back to my earlier video about the childbirth idiom, but it might also be that we already had the oil from last year, and now the only thing that is missing is this blood moon that coincides with the 2,000 years from the cross and Jesus' crucifixion 14 days after the new year, and now this blood moon being 14 days before the new year. So we know Hebrew observances are off, but perhaps God will show that he is sovereign to the world that have been confused and the blind. So he didn't come for those that are already healthy. He wants to save as many as possible. And how to do that? He will go where they are, where they think the truth is, and pick them up from there. And like I said, Jesus' crucifixion was 14 days after the New Year Nisan reckoning, and blood moon on 28th of August will be 14 days prior to the New Year Tishrei reckoning. I have a full video on this that I did earlier. So, could something comparable to resurrection on the 3rd day after the blood moon? And that would be the 31st of August, going into the 1st of September. Sept is 7, so it's the 7th month. I would make a whole lot of sense. Also, is the Feast of Trumpets, in its correct place on the 11th of September? Should it already be at this 1st of September? 31st to the 1st of September. Wow. So the rapture could actually happen on the 3rd day, fitting with the pattern of Jesus' crucifixion, and it would happen on the Feast of Trumpets, 1st of September. Wow. Then in the end here I have time is off by 4, 5, 6 by Holy Two Moons. We could have gone already at New Year of March, but tarry April, May, June, and at New Year, at 1st of 7th month, Feast of Trumpets, September, we go. In Enoch calendar, August only has 30 days, so we could even argue 31st of August is already the first day of the 7th month. It is also the 17th from the eclipse new moon. Be blessed, my friends. If you find this information useful, please like and share. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.